Hello, Formula One fans, and welcome back to F1 in Focus. If you are unfamiliar with the show, we are the only podcast where Lewis and a Max fan can very much get along in the wonderful world of Formula One and actually stay friendly during a season. That is at least until Lewis joins Ferrari, of course. My name is John, and I'll be your host. And with me is the man with the best hair in the business. It's James Hazel.
Hello, how's it going?
That's quite all right. Did you
Yeah,
enjoy
good.
this weekend?
Yeah, it was a brilliant weekend for Formula One, I thought, yeah.
Forgot about Monaco right away.
Yeah, not quite the snooze fest there. There was way more pit stops and way more overtakes.
Yeah, too many overtakes, but we'll talk about that later,
Yeah.
though. Shall we get this party started, and shall I try to recap the race?
Yeah, let's get to it.
All right, so race summary. It is Canada. Canada brought us typical English or Dutch weather. Rain, wind, and a bright sun. We had it all. And so did George Russell. The Mercs looked amazing over the weekend, and he drove his Mercedes to the first pole position of the year. Max Verstappen had a bad start of the weekend, but somehow managed to hit the exact same time in quali as George. But just as is the case with buying Grand Prix tickets these days, whoever comes first gets them all. George starting on pole, the race started in the wet, and we had so much action we instantly forgot about Monaco. Charles, however, did not forget about Monaco, and he's holding on to that memory because not only did both Ferraris not start in the top 10, they both ended up with it, did not finish. Just like the Williams, where Alex Albon was extremely unlucky with Sainz knocking him out, but still getting the overtake of the season. Logan Sargent, however, spinning off twice and was actually lucky he got an extra go, which again ended him up in the wall. A race and weekend with mistakes and high risks, which resulted in a win from Max, who almost killed a groundhog, two mistakes from George Russell, and a very unhappy Lewis Hamilton, who did actually not make a mistake but got set on hard tires and therefore still lost out on George. The McLarens showed once again that they are here to stay and that they are the only cars that still look decent after a track full of dirt and rain. If you're wondering by now why I have not mentioned Checo Perez, I'm still flabbergasted by the fact he got a 2-year contract extension, starting at the back of the grid again and bidding his car during the race. James, we're due a week off before the European triple header with Spain,
Yeah,
Austria, and England incoming.
yeah.
And if the Canadian Grand Prix was any indication, this is going to be 3 weeks of spectacle, at least for 7 drivers of the top 4 teams.
Yeah. Uh, I'm looking forward to it more than I had been for races like towards the start of the season. Like, it's looking really good. Formula One's looking really good at the moment. Um,
It's always the same guy
yeah,
that wins, James. Boring.
yeah, even though Max won. No, it was good though. Max, I think that was the first time in a long time, anyway, that I can remember like actually seeing him be overtaken on track, like properly. Admittedly, the weather
Miami.
was a bit wet, but Miami as well, yeah. But it I don't know, it just felt like a quite a rare moment in Formula One, seeing Max Verstappen and the Red Bull get overtaken by somebody. And yeah, they went on to win the race. And yeah, there was a little bit of a margin, but I feel like I kind of predicted this when I said it was going to be like Imola in Canada, and it broadly was. Apart from the shock that was Mercedes being in the fight, if not necessarily with Red Bull for the whole weekend, they certainly were with McLaren and Ferrari. A bit like Imola, weren't looking so good. So it
That's an
makes me
understatement.
Yeah, it makes me wonder if Mercedes now actually are kind of up there with McLaren as potentially being like one of the consistent sort of top 3 or 4 teams.
You sound like a professional podcaster steering up the hype train, mate.
I know. I feel hyped. That was a really good weekend of racing. I really enjoyed that weekend. Qualifying was nail biting. Even just before getting into qualifying practice, it just looked everything about the weekend looked like it was set up to be a great weekend or a great race day, and it delivered. I thought it was a fantastic race, one of the best races I've seen in a long time.
Definitely. So much to talk about. But the rule. There's just two focus points
Yep,
we're
that's
gonna
right.
mention. We're definitely. I might have to change some of them though. But the first focus point. Let's go into that one because you already said it. Rain, rain, rain.
Yeah,
FP1 down the drain, literally.
yeah.
FP2, well, half wet, half dry. Max car broke down, so FP3 dry. Q1 dryish. Q2 not quite dry. Q3 well in somewhere.
Yeah,
It, it changed every 5 minutes.
yeah. And
How can you deal with this as a team?
with difficulty, I think. This is what's so good about Montreal. It almost always delivers this. Like you, the week before the race weekend,
Almost always, except last year where we had the most boring race ever.
well, yeah, okay, but like very regularly, it's probably like every 2 or 3 years you get a race like this. I mean, this race reminded me a lot of what year was it? Is it 2012?
1997.
No, when Button like won the race from basically
Yeah.
last. Um, and yeah, safety cars and red flags and stuff helped. But that, yeah, I don't know what it is about Canada. Sometimes you get races where it rains and you get a red flag for like half an hour, and then when it resumes, it's just boring. Like it doesn't feel like it interrupted the race. It's like they paused the race for the weather to happen, and then when they resume, it's like they resume too late, and it's like not really a wet track anymore, or it's not that wet, and the race just kind of plays out the way it was going to anyway. But Canada, it never goes that way. Um, and yeah, it was just I don't really know how the teams cope because they've got very specific programs that they try to work through during practice so that they can get themselves set up for qualifying and the race. Obviously, first practice was completely washed out, literally.
Yeah, they actually were
Um,
blowing off the water from the
yeah,
track.
you
Just
see the hailstones, like it's crazy. Um, Second practice, admittedly, I didn't catch that, but it sounds like it was a very mixed bag of conditions.
yep.
Third
Max didn't quite
practice,
catch that either. So
no, they had an angle grinder to his car at one point, did they
yeah,
not? um, Getting into a side pod or something, and there was something about the ERS, the
they installed a new ERS if I got that
yeah, because
correctly, which
the
didn't work.
light to say that the car was unsafe to touch was
Max had to jump out of the car to make sure he didn't get electrocuted.
yeah, the light was either on or off, whichever way it
Hmm.
works. Basically, to warn people not to touch the car unless you've got those massive rubber gloves that, like some of the marshals are given for having to deal with a car in that situation. Um, but then, yeah, practice three. The results of practice three were very, very interesting. I mean, Ferrari were basically nowhere. The car, both Ferraris, just all over the place. They understeering, oversteering. Didn't really seem like they had a lot of speed anywhere on the track.
And they were the
Mercedes,
favorites going into Canada. Though.
yeah, I think so. Well, maybe not with me because I did think that Canada was going to play out similar to Imola, and they didn't do well at Imola. So I was hoping they'd do well after Monaco and for the championship battle, but I was kind of not 100% on that. Red Bull, I did think would be back up there. I expected them to be doing better than they did in P3. Checo, I don't think broke into the top 10 in a single session of the weekend.
Can we change the
Um,
subject? Can we go to topic number one? Just Checo, please. I know I've been
yeah,
holding back, but I can't.
nah, what an absolutely dismal, catastrophic, awful weekend for Checo.
Oh, wanted to say you
But
wanted
at
to
the
say
same time,
driver. Then you
he
made it
signed
into
his
a weekend. That's nice of you, but
yeah, he contract though, hasn't he? So although apparently that's potentially a 1+1.
still,
Yeah, but the plus one means they could drop him if it is a 1+1. I think Helmut Marko said it's a 2-year contract, and then Horner, kind of the way he worded an answer to a question over the weekend made it sound like it might be a 1+1. So, I mean, we never fully find out the details of.
But James, what do you have to do to drop a driver that has scored 4 points in 3 races in a Red Bull?
Yeah, he's been out qualified by Sargent 6 times now.
Yes, by Sargent.
Yeah,
He
I think.
qualified 16th, James.
Yeah, well, they're keeping hold of him for the money, aren't they? We were discussing this last weekend, trying to figure out why would you keep Perez.
And
And
I
the
said it
answer
was
was,
impossible they get an extension. And he said, no, it's probably going to happen.
yeah, I mean, the answer was right there in front of us, but we weren't focused in on that, and that's just the financial side of things. And he signing him removes a burden through sponsorship to kind of hit your maximum budget and be able to spend it. Because we know that there are teams like Haas who they finish down the order, they have a bigger allocation of budget allowed to them, but they don't fill that budget because they don't bring in enough sponsors or make enough money.
But we're talking about Red Bull.
But Red Bull, well, yeah, Red Bull, you'd think don't have that problem, but even if they don't, it kind of it.
Guess you never can have enough money, but come on.
Yeah, it kind of.
I mean, Jarno Opmeer is moving to Red Bull Sim, so maybe that dips the scales of the wages a lot. But
Jarno is.
I think so, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Because he's been a Mercedes guy for a long time.
He has been, yes. Which means maybe the other way around, something happens as well.
Maybe, yeah. I think for that sort of swap, there'd be maybe exchanging bigger players than the guys who drive the F1 game. But and do sim work, I suppose. But
no, but talking about Checo, though. Yuki got a contract extension as well.
Yep.
So that's good. He's definitely deservingly of it. Although this wasn't his most lucky race either, but he did well until he crashed. Good qualifying as well. Danny Ricciardo doing well as well. But the fact you keep a driver in and Max is fighting alone, spoke about that last week as well, against 2 McLarens, 2 Mercedes. There were no Ferraris up there, but if there were, it's amazing he can actually win a race on its own.
Yeah, so far, Red Bull have been fortunate when Checo hasn't been there, that there hasn't been an opportunity for a team to gang up on Max.
Well, last week, or 2 weeks ago in Monaco, that happened.
Well, no, because Max started down in 6th or 7th, didn't he?
6th, yeah.
6th, yeah. So I'm talking about in a race where you can potentially throw one driver into the pits to cause Max to then have to cover that, but then the other person, whichever team it is, whoever that other driver is, can then maybe run a more optimal strategy because they're not having to defend against whatever anyone else is doing behind them.
Yes, which they did with McLaren.
Yeah.
2 types of strategies just to see how far you can get.
Yeah.
And I think that's basically Lando Norris had the World Constructor Championship is not going to go to Red Bull anyways now.
Potentially not. No, I mean it depends. It depends on Ferrari and the rest of the season for Ferrari because it feels like Imola was a bit of an odd track for them compared to how they've been for the rest of the season. Yeah, but then in Canada as well was like Imola. I wouldn't expect them to be as slow going into Spain or the rest of the Europe, like this triple header we've got coming up in Europe. But where they finish, I don't know, because McLaren have been consistently strong since the upgrade that they brought to Imola. Red Bull will probably be a lot better once they get onto those sorts of circuits and away from sort of
Hope so.
street circuits, which, I mean, Canada technically is a street circuit, but doesn't really feel like a street circuit.
So as curbs, I think if you had Canada in the dry, like we said last week, I at least said that I don't expect too much from Red Bull if it's dry, because you have to hit the curbs really hard.
Yeah.
And maybe, if it's raining, you don't hit the curbs. So
no, I mean, Max, he was attacking the curb in the wet going into that final chicane, but you kind of have to. And even when he reached the point where he was saying, I can't touch the curbs, yeah, he was still saying fastest laps and
true, but normally
pulling away, but not as fast as he normally would.
Normally, when you have Canada, you have the first left-right turn.
Yeah,
you hit the curbs really hard there.
Oh yeah,
maximize your momentum. That's normally a corner where the Red Bulls won't be able to do it. But now it's raining, you can't really do that because you also have the pit lane exit, which has a wide line. You don't want to
Yeah.
touch the wide lines during the rain. So you have a different angle. I think that just worked for the Red Bulls in there. Well, one
Yeah,
of the
but
Red
then
Bulls.
even towards the end of the race, when the track was drying and they were all onto slicks, and he was 4 seconds ahead of Norris after Norris had kind of come out of the pits like basically alongside
Yeah,
him
that's
pretty
true.
much, and then lost out because the tires were cold. And the pit exit is no good for that either because it's not on the racing line, so that part of the track was still soaking wet, and you could see that as soon as Norris tried to put his foot down, the car was just going sideways. Um, but he basically lost 4 seconds on his outlap because as he comes out of the pits with hot tyres, he's immediately then going onto the wet, cooling his tyres down, losing all of his grip, and then having to work to get that back. But then after that, Max was still, eking
That's
away
true.
from him.
That is true. I wonder
Maybe
though what
maybe
happened
not
if
as
they put him one lap earlier when Max's tires weren't warmed up yet. I think that would probably make the gap was
yeah.
there.
I
So
I I think you're right on that. I think one lap earlier, and
you have a
Morris
chance.
Morris might have had more of a chance then.
Yeah, I think second lap Max just had an amazing lap on its own,
Yeah.
meaning it was going to be tight. But
Yeah, they were looking at Piastri because Piastri pitted first, obviously. Then Max pitted after Piastri,
and then it
and
took an extra lap before Norris came in.
yeah, but Norris's time on the intermediates compared to Piastri's time on the slick tires was still faster than the slicks for
Yeah,
Norris. So I think they were looking at that and saying, well, it's the intermediates are actually still just about the better tire.
but the
I think
time from Max in that 2 laps was way faster.
yeah, by time he was like that second of those 2 laps on the intermediate tires, the dry tire was probably the tire to be on at that point.
Yeah.
And it was marginal because the gap wasn't really shrinking, but at that point he's also given Max an extra lap to warm his tires up. So when they do have that fight coming out of the pits and for the rest of that lap, Max kind of he's also figured the track out by that point.
True.
He knows how much later he can brake now that he's on the slicks, and he knows how much throttle to apply and how much grip he's got and all the rest of it, which would all be kind of foreign territory to Norris at that point of the race.
That's true. I do think that you definitely saw that Max likes this half wet, half dry, full wet conditions, right?
Yeah, to be fair, I think the top 5 or 6 were all enjoying that. You could tell
Yes.
the racing was it was really, really fun to watch. I mean, it was fun throughout the field, but the fact that the top 5 or 6 or 7 drivers were all kind of seemed like they were in their element.
Top four ended in 5 seconds.
Yeah, something like that. I
So
know. But
4.9
Max,
seconds between number one and number four.
yeah, a bit of a gap, and then the next 3 were relatively close to each
3.8,
other.
then 4.3, 4.9. So yeah,
Yeah.
pretty cool. James, closing the topic of Checo where we started off with. It's just all about money, and they just threw away the World Constructor Championship for this.
Probably, yeah. I think if Ferrari pull it together now, even with McLaren,
McLaren will overtake them.
I mean, I think that if both of those teams kind of pull it together, and if you see Perez continue on a kind of just a very bad run that he's been on, they're potentially third in the constructors. I think you could see, even though Ferrari didn't score any points this weekend, we're not even halfway through the championship yet.
It's disgraceful, though, James. I mean,
Yeah, there's the potential for Ferrari and McLaren.
he can
I
end
think
up
it's a long shot, but there is a chance.
if you look at the standings, he can end up being sixth in a World Driver Championship at the end of the year.
Yeah, it'll be very similar to 2022 again.
Or he
And
was
that sort of
fourth?
yeah,
Third?
but he was often kind of. I mean, we talk about Mercedes being garbage, but in that sort of that 2022 season,
Everyone was garbage except Red Bull. That was
yeah,
sort of
there was quite a bit of fighting with Mercedes, Ferrari, not so much McLaren at the time. But those top 3 teams and those top 6 drivers, or the 6 drivers of those top 3 teams, were, apart from Max, especially after Spa, we're kind of checking out of it. I mean, I suppose Max and Leclerc were having a bit of a fight for the first 6 or 7 races, but But I think it has the potential to be like that again. I don't think Max has got the advantage that he had in that season. Certainly, the second half of that season.
I like your bridge in this one because the second topic we wanted to discuss was George Russell and Mercedes.
Yeah.
If you make a T pose, I'll join the intro.
Respect for that after qualifying. He's just embracing the meme.
Tell people what T pose is before people start asking.
It was from last year's intro where Russell did that pose down the corridor with like his hands on either side of the wall. Yeah, just doing that. That's just become a meme, a Formula One meme at this point. And yeah, he stood up on the top of the car and did that qualifying and pole, obviously.
You know the Leonardo DiCaprio meme where you're like you see pointing to the screen, like,
Yeah,
and that was me.
yeah. I was more like Captain America. Like, oh, I understand that reference.
Exactly. Yeah. No, but seriously, James, George Russell, or Mercedes in general, honestly, this weekend, are they back? What do you want to discuss? Do you want to discuss Mercedes picking up the gauntlet, or do you want to discuss George Russell just absolutely nailing it in qualifying week after week after week after week?
Well, first thing I want to say is that I don't want to commit to saying that Mercedes are back necessarily.
No, because you're a fan, you're afraid you jinx it.
Oh, not so much that. I mean, I'm a Hamilton fan. I'm not necessarily a Mercedes fan at the moment. I think we've got a sample size of one, basically. I mean, they didn't look too bad in Monaco, but Monaco's such an outlier track that you can't really gauge anything from that.
For sure, wants to incline with you there.
Yeah, this is the first race with this new front wing, which they're kind of talking about as being a substantial upgrade. And yeah, they look pretty racy. Obviously, they got pole position, but this was also a track that Red Bulls maybe not quite at their peak performance at. Ferrari obviously were just nowhere to be seen. McLaren just seemed to be where McLaren currently are. So I mean, if Mercedes, if they're in that same sort of fight as McLaren, that's a pretty good, significant jump that they've made, and that'd be somewhat impressive. And it'd be good for the rest of the championship this year. Whether they stay there, I don't know. We'll find out more from Spain, I suppose. If they do well in Spain, which actually historically they have done, even when their car was garbage in 2022, and especially last year in 2023, they weren't too bad in Spain. So maybe they'll still be good there anyway. But I don't know if this is like some kind of magic fix and Mercedes are kind of on this upward trend back to where they like to think that they should be.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, having 4 teams fight for a win is awesome.
It would be, yeah.
I am very worried as a Max fan for the fact he has to fight it alone, especially when the Mercedes are seemingly back.
Yeah.
However, Checo will probably make sure there's not a safety car coming, but let's talk about that in a moment.
Yeah.
No, but I feel that this could be the return of Mercedes. Their top speed was pretty good as well.
Yeah.
I think the top speed of Ferrari was a little bit let down, but there must be something wrong there. Generally speaking, it's been a while since I've been hyped. Since I've been on the hype train for Formula One racing itself, especially when you go into Spain, where every team knows everything about. Austria, which is normally Max's domain, we always get good races there. Yep. And of course, Silverstone, where the Mercedes and McLaren will do everything in their power to be at the best there. I feel Mercedes can be back. I applaud their calls they made, except one, James.
The final stop.
What happened there?
Well, to be fair, they didn't think soft tyres would last, and he had no more mediums. He'd used his mediums in the previous stint, and I don't think they were expecting another potential pit stop.
Lewis Hamilton said this was his worst race ever.
I don't think it was his worst race ever. I think a little bit of that he's trying to play down the fact that he ended up being beaten by Russell again. and he probably felt that he shouldn't have been because practice 3 he was top of the timing sheets. I think
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure he was. He was ahead of Russell anyway.
I expected Hamilton to win qualifying.
I expected Hamilton on pole. I don't know what happened in Q3 for him to qualify down in like 6th or 7th, wherever it was.
He said tires were too cold. Not
Yeah.
sure where the issue came from, but
And they never got that back. Yeah, there was a question about or he raised a question potentially. I don't know whether he was just being a bit cynical like he sometimes is, but he raised a question about the tire blankets and whether there'd been a mistake made with those. I mean, I don't
with
think
his tire warmers, he said.
Yeah, I don't
think
I
it was
don't
a
think
dig at the team, honestly.
I don't think anyone's sabotaging Lewis Hamilton right now, even
No.
if he's leaving the team. I think there's the potential, well, not just the potential. I think they probably are now favouring Russell in the team.
Which makes sense, right?
I mean, it does make sense. He's the future of the team now.
I saw the same call being made with Ocon and Gasly.
Yeah.
And people were, why does Ocon allow that? So for people that didn't know, in the last lap, they switched Gasly and Ocon around. So Ocon had a terrific race. He was in 9th. Gasly was in 10th. And Gasly could overtake him, but he didn't have to give the position back.
That call, I think, was stupid. Really, I don't see why they did that. They've already got a bit of a bad storm brewing within that team, or they have done for a long time, but it's getting worse with the situation with Ocon. And all they've done is just throw him under the bus like that. I don't think they should have done that. And I thought their tweet afterwards,
Ocon was pretty pissed.
was really rubbing salt into the wound, where they were like shouting him out for helping the team gain significant points. But they would have gained the same amount of points if they'd left the drivers where they were with Gasly behind Ocon. But Ocon's not the future of that team, obviously, because he's now, it's known that he's leaving. But they've still got to race the rest of the season with him, and this is why I don't think Mercedes is sabotaging Hamilton, because they've got the rest of the season with him. You can't this
is round 9. We're in round 9. So
yeah, they want the best amount of points they can get. So until you get to the point where this championship or the season's basically over, you're not going to go sabotaging a driver like that. And I think the way that Alpine treated Ocon was, I mean, I'm not Ocon's biggest fan. I think what he did in Monaco was just absolutely ridiculous.
Well, he definitely got a penalty for that, as in his contract doesn't get extended. So
well, yeah, but at the same time, I think what they did to him in Canada was
he had a terrific race. That was just
equally as unfair, I think.
Do you wanna? We can't play the board radio, of course, because copyright and stuff.
Yeah,
but I have it written out there here.
Yeah, if you want to cover it, yeah.
Engineer says, Esteban, we have to let Pierre through, please. Kept behind him 2 seconds to Hulkenberg. What's the reason? Ocon asks. We need to try and attack Ricciardo. And Ocon says, yeah, forget it. Engineer says, okay, that is a request. You got 3 laps to go. Are you giving me the place back after or not? He asks. Where the engineer says, it's what I'm working on. And Ocon says, okay, I'll let him by, understood. Then at the end, they say, Esteban, the cars are not swapping places. Push to the end, please. And he says, yeah, amazing. Thank you. This is amazing. Yeah, amazing. Esteban, the radio is still on. Yeah, sure, mate. Okay. Yeah, good. Okay. Yeah, no comment. You're too nice. You're good. Okay, mate.
Yeah.
And he said, I've done what I had to do, which is the most important, but you guys didn't do what you had to do. That's all I'm going to say about it. Well,
I think
there's not going to be a barbecue there.
No.
A roast maybe, though.
Someone's getting roasted. I'm kind of I am actually, in fairness, I'm kind of in two minds about this, because it's a team sport. Who cares what the drivers are doing, really? I mean, winning the Drivers' Championship is like the more prestigious of the awards for taking part in Formula One. It's the most prestigious. The Drivers' Championship is the one everyone cares about. The team doesn't really care about that. The team just cares about the team championship. And when it's a difference between, what was it, 8th and 9th?
No, they're 9 and 10th.
9 and 10. What's the point in getting worked up about that? I mean, at the same time, what's the point in swapping the drivers? I don't think they had this.
Yeah, that was my point. Like, why would you switch them around?
Yeah, well, even if you do, why not just swap them back? Just say to Gasly, and even then, you had your chance, you failed.
Alpine is having a terrible season.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
So at this point, they are now at 5 points. So they secured some points here, 5 points in total. I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, if you
I mean,
fight, they're
they do
fighting
seem,
Williams and Sauber.
yeah, they've made some strides a little bit since the car shed some weight. Like the fact that they've been mentioned in the top 10 like the last couple of races is something. But I mean, if they carry on the rest of the season the way it looked like they were going in Canada,
They end up
the
sixth.
shenanigans that it has played at the start of the season might not count for anything.
No,
But I just, yeah, I don't see the point in. I don't see the point from either side. Because from one side you can look at Ocon and be like, well, why are you getting worked up about the difference between 9th or 10th? What's it matter? But then from the other side, you can say, well, what's the point in not swapping the drivers around just to keep them happy? You might as well just do that.
James, isn't
So,
this just making fun of Ocon?
a little bit, yeah. It's bad management, is what it is, really.
Right?
The drivers can only do what they can do behind the wheel. So, like Ocon to get back behind Gasly, he's probably not doing that without a helping hand. Gasly couldn't get past him without a helping hand, i.e., the team saying let him past. So,
Well, they also don't want to waste 3 of the 5 points, which in total they had. So it's
yeah,
probably safe to give one a command to just move out of the way.
yeah. Well, but this is what I'm saying. Like, it's bad management.
Well,
Like
I think bad management is the new sponsor of Alpine, honestly.
yeah, well, true. I mean, that's been the case for more than just this season.
They don't even have management anymore left, I think.
No, it's just yeah.
But
I
they're
don't
not
see the
selling, by
point
the
in
way, just in case you're wondering.
it. They will. I'm
The
sure
press
they will.
statement said we're not selling to
No,
anyone.
well, if you're selling, you don't say you're selling because that devalues your product.
Don't tell
Your
anyone.
product being the team. So you would be adamant until you sell that you're not selling just to maintain value. But yeah. Anyway, we're supposed to be talking about Russell and
Yeah.
Hamilton and Mercedes.
But it's the same thing. I think what you said, I think Russell is number one driver now. They won't
I think
announce it.
he is.
But
I think
fairly so, because he does perform.
well,
Although,
he's out qualified Hamilton every race so far, hasn't he?
yes, but
I think the only time he hasn't finished in front of Hamilton in a race was when he's DNF'd.
yeah, but don't you think he made a couple of too many mistakes this weekend?
Oh, he's not world championship material yet.
Uh,
Maybe in the future, but the way that race panned out, yeah,
it's not only the tactics that didn't work in his favor, because
he's
he ripped his tires apart.
yeah.
First time.
That's another problem with Russell is he's had this for the last 3 seasons, or the last 2 seasons, and this season so far. He doesn't have tire management, and that's a problem that Piastri doesn't have yet as well. But
Getting better.
Piastri's getting better, and I mean he's not a rookie anymore, but he's still in like the youth of his career.
I saw a lot of critique to Piastri this weekend. I'm like, it's his second season.
Yeah,
Like,
I thought
I
Piastri
mean,
had a great
Sargent
race.
also second season. So compare those.
Yeah, I mean the cars are different as well, sure, but the mistakes.
Yeah, but the McLaren of
Piastri's
last
not
year was
making
much
any
better than that
mistakes.
Williams.
Yeah,
So
Piastri, he's not making any mistakes. He's driving well. He's just got some elements of his driving that he needs to improve on, and I think time management is one of them. Russell is sorry, not Russell. Norris is definitely better at that within that team. And I said this last week, last race about Monaco, is that Piastri being the car behind Leclerc was the wrong McLaren to have behind Leclerc if
yeah,
you want to pressure him and try and win the race. I'm not. I mean, it sounds like a slight on Piastri, but it's just that Piastri's not quite there yet. But I do rate him, and I think he will be there in a couple more years.
and I'm going to be honest. I said that I did. Well, I called Lando no win as well, right? And
Yeah.
he's proven to be there now every week. So
Yeah, he's stepped up. He's having a great season. They've delivered a car to him that's, now going to be potentially capable of fighting for wins, as it did in Miami, obviously. And he's driving well with that at the moment. He's on a pretty good run. And I'm happy to see it because I do like him. I do think he's a good driver, and I do like him as a character in the sport and his personality, and he just seems like a fun guy. I think we said this.
I mean, Checo seems like a fun guy as well, but I still don't want to see him in the Red
Not
Bull.
so much. I think Checo in press conferences and the way he talks about, I don't.
It's not him making the mistakes.
No, that's the problem. It's never his fault.
Huh? It's a difficult situation.
Yeah, he'll never own up to a mistake or whatever. But anyway, still got another 2 years with Red Bull after this. So
yeah, I hope Max just switches teams now.
Well, maybe Red Bull switches him because that will be in the contract somewhere that they have the ability to swap him and Yuki or Ricciardo around if they wanted to.
I just want to see Yuki in a Red Bull now because, I mean, yeah, he made a mistake. He went off. But so did many others. Russell went off 3 times as well.
It was
right?
tricky conditions. I don't think you can...
Exactly.
I don't think you can really... Any of the drivers either, to be fair. I mean, Sargent's a bit of a meme at this point in the sport, but I don't think you can really give him too much...
I don't know, because I watched the Sainz spin, for example.
Yeah.
He definitely charged into the curb when it was wet there as well. And the others in front of him took the other line around. Where if you look at Checo, he also charged that same curve and went up there as well. Yeah. So although I think it's tricky conditions, you can avoid them. And I do expect from experienced as drivers as Checo and Sainz that they don't do this, honestly.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, I thought what looked worse for Sainz was the fact that he tried to what's that, Sainz?
Yeah, spinning around in the grass.
Spinning around on the grass. Yeah. That reminded me of Vettel. Like one of the first times I played the Formula 1 game and turned all the assists off. Like, whenever that would have been, however many years ago. What the hell is this game? It's like I'm driving on ice. That's what it looked like.
I saw the frustration there as well, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. But I don't want to give any of the drivers too hard time for any mistakes in the wet because you could tell it was treacherous conditions out there. It was slippery. It was...
Yeah, but like I said, there are some mistakes which I think you can avoid, and you should be critical. And you can be critical at these guys, right? There's the top 20 drivers in the world. So, I mean, I've seen some mistakes. I've been watching a lot of DTM this weekend. I think I've seen some mistakes there as well. But these aren't those that talented.
But even Max made a mistake. Even Hamilton made a mistake. So it was, I think when you've got, especially those two who have quite a reputation for driving in the wet, when those two are making mistakes, I think when you look further down the field and see mistakes, it's like, well, it must be quite tough out there because Max made a mistake and Hamilton made a mistake.
Yeah, but not at the stages where there was grass on the other side. So they took calculated risk, is my honest opinion there. They made the same mistakes. Yeah. They made the mistakes in the same corners, right?
Yeah.
Whereas if you do them turn 1 and 2, if you don't touch the white line on the outside, turn 2, you should be safe. They both didn't touch that line. They just took too much curb and then sort of went straight on, which is a risk you can take. Same with the World Champions at the end, I think. But if you do it to the turn 4 or the turns 8 and 9 where Sainz and Checo went off, I think that's just too much risk or...
Yeah, a little bit, because there's not a lot of runoff there. If you start to lose it...
You're in the grass and it's done. So
in those conditions, you're not just going to lose it. You're going to hit the wall like Perez did. But, yeah.
But maybe I'm too critical, James. I've heard that before as well. So
maybe a little bit, maybe. No, I just think that, it was rough out there for them.
True.
So,
true.
Fair play to all the
You know what also was very rough this weekend, James?
Yeah?
My predictions.
Yeah.
I think it's time you get that trophy ordered already. Cause,
no, we're not even halfway through the season. I could have a Checo run and you could have a Max run.
Unlikely.
Turn it around.
Okay. The current standing, James, of our predictions is 18-14.
Yes.
In your advantage, of course.
Yeah.
You predicted a pole position from Norris.
I did, yeah.
Close.
Yeah.
0.02, honestly.
I know, yeah.
I predicted the pole position from Max.
Well, he set the right time. He just didn't set it first.
So I was even closer, but not correct.
Yeah.
So we remain at 18-14. You predicted the win from Max.
Yeah.
And I predicted the win from Norris.
Yeah.
So that means it 19-14 in your advantage.
Yeah.
I predicted it did not finish. You said Mac.
Yep.
I said Piastri. Neither of those crashed.
No. Sargent was the first to crash.
Yes.
And I almost don't
And
want
we
to
always
say
do that every single week. But
yeah.
it
Oh, well.
happens. Then again, the bonus question was how many overtakes do we get? And whoever is closest. James, you said 33 overtakes. I said 25 overtakes.
Yeah.
I think K-Mac had 25 by lap 2, so I didn't even keep count, but I'm pretty sure we surpassed the 33.
Just as a disclaimer here, we haven't actually found the statistics on that yet, and I wasn't keeping count during the race. You weren't either, and I'm not.
No, but I already said like lap 4. I saw the both Haas coming storming up front. Yeah. So they started 19 and 20. And I think, and as wasn't, or as I think they started 17 and 18th, where K-Mac was 7th after lap 3. So
yeah, he was up to 4th place at one point.
4th place. So
yeah,
Max overtook everyone. The other ones took everyone. The top 3 switched around. So I don't even have to count, but I'm pretty sure
Albon passed 2 going into one corner,
which is the overtake of the year. So
yeah, that was phenomenal. that was proper vintage Formula One.
And he technically overtook Sainz
before he got wiped out.
Exactly,
as he was getting wiped out by Sainz. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure you won as well, which means the current standing is 19-14.
20-14 with
20-14 even.
Sorry.
No, that's quite all right. Don't let it happen again. But yeah. My hope still at the end results though, because we have the bonus question at the end of the season, which we predicted at the first podcast this year, which will bring us to the predictions, of course, of Spain.
Yeah.
Your favorite track, James?
It's not my favorite. I don't mind Spain. I quite like it, but it's not my favorite. It's not my favorite race usually because there's not normally too much overtaking.
The new track layout's much better though.
Yeah, to be fair, it is. Yeah.
So, well, I'm definitely looking forward to that. And Ferrari bringing their upgrade. So, James.
Yes.
Spain. Who's going to take pole position?
I'm going with Max. It's the safe bet, but I just feel like Red Bull are going to be back to how they started the season at a circuit like Barcelona.
The annoying part is I can't really do anything else here. So.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's fine. So it's going to take the win.
You go first on this one.
Max. I'm also saying Paul and Max as well, by the way.
Yeah.
So
I want to say Max. I want to say Norris.
So you're going to say Sainz?
No, I'll say Norris. Let's hope for a Norris win.
All right. Who's going to be the first DNF?
First DNF. I'm going to go with Ocon.
Okay. I'm going to go with Sargent. Has to happen one day.
Old Faithful.
Exactly. My own old yeller.
Yeah.
James, you didn't prepare any, I bet. So what's your bonus question?
It's your turn for a bonus question.
No, the overtake was my turn, my friend.
No, that was definitely my turn.
No, it's definitely my turn.
No, that was definitely me. We can check the tapes. It's on YouTube.
We don't record on tapes anymore.
Okay, we could check the MP4 or whatever it is.
All right, fastest pit stop, James.
Fastest pit stop. 1.87.
1.87. That's fast.
It is fast, yeah.
That is fast.
That would probably be on par or faster than the current fastest, I think.
No, the current fastest is 1.8 set by Red Bull, I think so.
Okay, I thought it was 1.88. I know 1.88 was the fastest in Monaco, I think, or something. I can't remember.
I'm going to go with 1.88 then.
Are you?
Need to win one day. I bet it's going to be 1.86 again. So you're going to say Max is taking pole. I'm saying you're saying Norris is going to win. I'm going to say Max is going to win. DNF by Ocon, the first DNF that is, and the first DNF by me, Sargent. Fast pit stop is going to be 1.87 from your side. or I'm saying 1.80. I know whoever gets closest gets a point.
Yeah.
So even if you can't even get them all wrong because we have one the same answer. So can I get 3 places close the gap to 2017? I'm doubtful, but it's a long way to go, and you can't give up before you've crossed the finish line, James.
No, exactly. Yeah, we're not even halfway through the season. There's plenty of time.
Well, this was my. I did a Lewis Hamilton there. This was my worst race this season. My worst prediction.
Yeah.
One day, James. One day we'll get there. Well, true. I don't have anything to add. I could talk a lot about Yuki's performance this weekend. Ricardo hitting the points again. Apparently, all he needed was having Villeneuve say bad stuff about him.
To talk crap about him, yeah.
So I think
Did you see his interview after that?
Yeah, terrific. I think it's if I would hire Red Bull, if I would hire Villeneuve just to talk crap to Daniel Ricciardo before a race now.
Yeah. I mean,
and maybe Ferrari can get Sean Lacey then.
Yeah, I thought that was a bit harsh on Villeneuve, really, because the last couple of races have been okay for Ricciardo.
Villeneuve is also the one pundit that says that Max didn't belong in a Formula One car. So
yeah, I mean, he does.
I'm not really taking much of. He's a legend as a driver, but all he says in front of a camera so far hasn't impressed me at all.
No, I think his opinions are not always worth a lot.
It feels a little bit like some of the websites getting the clickbaits in.
Yeah.
It's like, you make up a headline and can you say that in the camera, please? Oh, sure.
Yeah.
And he does it.
Yeah, I want to see more of that from Ricciardo, though. I thought that was a good performance this weekend. So
definitely. Did you see Fernando Alonso going to Max into the race and pointing 2 fingers at him and saying 2 years, 2 more years to him?
No.
I think he was talking about Checo.
Yeah. I didn't see that. That's great.
We have to link that. That was like after the race, he came towards him in the press square and he said like 2 more years, and then he walked away.
Yeah.
So it's gonna be a fun time. I'm looking forward to it. We will not be back this week. We will be back after the race in Spain, of course.
Yes.
If you are not watching the WEC, I think that's something you should be looking at for this week.
Yeah, okay.
That's definitely coming up. And that's the Endurance Championship. It is so awesome to see lately. So yeah, I'm very much looking forward to the races there. And James, and if you're wondering, by the way, it's time for Le Mans. So that's why I'm saying. See you in 2 weeks then.
Yeah, see you then.
All right. Goodbye and cheers.
See you later.